Good evening. Welcome to the Doty Report. I am Don Doty, founder and CEO of the Georgia Doty HIV and Hepatitis Community Outreach, an organization dedicated to health disparities within communities of color. Tonight's guest is Father George Clement. Father Clement is an American Roman Catholic priest who in 1981 became the first Catholic priest in the Chicago area to adopt a child. Through his founding of several programs, including One Church, One Child, One Church, One Addict, One Church, One Inmate, he brought greater recognition to social programs and encouraged the adoption of African American children. In June of 1969, Father Clements became the first black pastor of Holy Angels Church on the south side of Chicago. He is also well known in his involvement in civil rights activities during a period that extended from the late 60s to the present. Father Clement is the chairman emeritus of the Georgia Doty organization and has served as chairman for over 6 years. He has been with us to the prisons speaking on spirituality to the reentry population and all those that have been incarcerated. I want to extend further than just the presentation itself. Father Clement was the first individual professional social activist in Chicago that I met. I was invited to Chicago by W. Clement Stone and Harold Washington. My mother, Georgia Doty, developed a model, a national welfare to work allied health post-secondary trade school. And we trained over 5,000 individuals that were on welfare during that time. Became so popular that we got a $2 million grant from President Carter during his administration. And Harold Washington wanted me to come to Chicago and duplicate that model. That school that I set up and established was called Center for Employment Training. And we started on Holman and Arthington. And then we went to 100 Northwestern. And we trained over 3,000 individuals in the health and allied health field. And we had a welfare to work program for those that are coming out of prison that were incarcerated for the reentry population. And we trained them in building maintenance. And that's when I had a chance to really work with Father Clements in the prisons and dealing with spirituality. But more so, I'd like for him to share with you our relationship, our history, and some of the accomplishments that we made since we met. Father George Clements.
Thank you very much, Don. Indeed, our relationship is deep. And it's deep because I feel that Don is doing exactly what we're supposed to do if we are in any ways at all spiritual. We are supposed to look out for those people that my leader, Jesus, talked about. Especially in Matthew, that 35th chapter, the 26th verse, when he said that I was hungry and you fed me, I was thirsty and you gave me to drink, I was naked and you clothed me, I was homeless and you took me in, I was in jail and you came to visit me, I was sick and you came to me. And he said that so clearly, Don. It was clearly. It was no equivocation at all. And then he said very clearly too, as long as you did it to one of these, the least of my brethren, you did it to me. And that's where I got my cue from. People are always asking me, what is it that caused you to get involved as you have? Well, it's because I really believe what my leader said. My leader, Jesus, said, as long as you did it to one of these, the least of my brethren, you did it to me. And that's why when you had spoken to me, Don, about coming on this program, I was more than happy to do so because it gives me an opportunity to talk about spirituality. And that's really where I am. I'm into spirituality. And I hope that some of you who are listening to me right now, watching us, the two of us, I'm hoping that you'll understand the power of spirituality. Why is it so important? Much more important than organized religion.
Let me ask you this. What's the difference between spirituality and religion?
Well, the difference is that spirituality covers every religion. Buddhist, Muslim, whatever, Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, it engulfs all the religions. Organized religion concentrates on one particular religious dynamic, and that's fine. It's not my cup of tea.
Right.
So I'm not into that. Yes, I am a Catholic priest. I have been one for 61 years. Actually, I'm 86, and I hope I don't look at them, but I am. And, I have every reason why I want to remain a Catholic priest. But I'm really into spirituality. I don't expect people to believe precisely what I believe, but I do expect people to be spiritual. So what is the difference? The difference is that you're much more expansive when you start talking about spirituality. And spirituality, of course, is talking about our relationship with God. And there are folks who, for example, say that, well, I don't see why you got to talk about God. What has he got to do with addiction, all of these situations that we're talking about, jail and homelessness and all that? It has everything to do with it, because God is spirituality.
Right.
That's what this is really all about.
Now, why are you so involved with addiction?
I'm involved with addiction because I feel very strongly that spirituality is the only thing that can really destroy addiction. And if addiction is not destroyed, then the individual is destroyed. There are so many people who have just made a mess of their lives because of addiction. And drug dealers realize this, and that's why they are so opposed to spirituality, because they know that spirituality destroys addiction. And I will never ever equate spirituality with organized religion, because you know what, Don? I have yet to meet a drug dealer who says he's not going to sell an individual his product. He's not going to give them drugs unless he knows what religion they have. Yeah, you got to be Presbyterian or something before you can get high. Drug dealers don't care about organized religion, but they do care about spirituality.
Now, I find that with many patients that I've worked with over the years, that spirituality and the power of spirituality and the eternal spirituality, I find people can overcome. Matter of fact, we were giving lessons and classes to the medical interns before they graduate to understand how people that was diagnosed with a deadly disease overcome that disease. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a psychological, mental thing to not accept that religion, not to accept that death, not to accept the reality of the outcome of a serious virus or a serious disease. And I've seen people be able to overcome it, and it's a mystery to them. And I think a lot of them is the power of spirituality. How does that work?
Well, I noticed you used the word disease. You know, there are those who do maintain that addiction is a way that that merits you going to jail, or it's something that's a sign of how weak you are, or something like that. But no. Spirituality is something so much more profound than that. And it has its roots in disease. It's a feeling of a person who, just like he might have whooping cough or might have whatever. So also he would have this disease. And this disease is one that's really very, very powerful. And it has to have another counteracting power if it's to be destroyed. And we know that it can be destroyed with the help of God.
Yes.
And there are those who do not want me to talk about God when I'm talking about this, because they want me to talk about a psychological problem, that mental health or something, but not talk about God. And God is the only way that I can even begin to think of about addiction. It is a fact. Now, those of you who are watching, you heard Father Clements say this. I have never been an addict. I don't know anything about ever having taken drugs. But I'm not about to pat myself on the back, because, now hear me well, the reason I never became addicted is because I'm a wimp. I'm scared. I know of so many people far more intellectual than I am, far more religious than I am, and they have fallen into addiction. What makes me think that I'm some exception? No, the reason why I have not ever gotten into that satanic grip of addiction is because I know how powerful the devil is.
Now, addiction isn't always just related to drugs. We're talking addiction, overall addiction.
Overall addiction. We're not talking about
sex,
drugs.
it could be
Anything. It can be money. It can be any thing that you just dwell on, which keeps you from being who God wants you to be. And I have spoken about drugs because and alcoholism and all of that, because they are so obvious. But as you just pointed out, you can be addicted to anything, and it's sad. I think it's really terrible to be addicted to sex, and there are those who are. That's all they can think about. That's all they do is go around chasing someone in order to get a sexual high. So it can be a lot of things.
Which causes the problem of having a lot of children growing up without a permanent father in place and without a baby daddy.
Definitely, yes. And because every child deserves a permanent home. I did become the first priest to publicly become an adopted father. I have 4 sons. And I did this because I just don't feel it's right for children to have to grow up and not know anybody who's a mother or a father to them. They all deserve permanent homes. And so when I did make a decision that it was up to me to try to show the way myself, that's when I started this organization called One Church, One Child. And it started right here in Chicago, where we are now, and it spread over the nation, and it has been tracked by the National Opinion Research Center and at the University of Chicago. And what they say is that there are 400,000 children that have found homes through One Church, One Child. A very simple concept. Just go into every church that you can get into and talk to the minister, the pastor, the rabbi, whoever. And if you can get at least one child or home out of that church, then that particular temple or church, mosque, whatever, that becomes one church, one child entity.
Do you find that by not having a father in the home, that this is why a lot of young adults are being drawn to gangs as a backup support system?
Do I find out that not having a parent causes some children to actually become involved with substitutes like gangs? Absolutely, because it's a natural thing for a child to want to have some group when they're growing up. They just need that very badly. And if we don't supply them a home, then they can, of course, become absorbed by a gang, or they can become into the criminal justice system. They can become, unfortunately, involved with jail and can spend the rest of their lives in somebody's cage. Yes, it is true. Unfortunately, we have to have children into permanent homes. And I cannot understand how there are those who, as we speak right now, they are willing to rip children out of the arms of mothers because those children have not been, those parents have not been considered to be citizens. It's just so pitiful.
Well, I guess we're talking about the Trump administration at this time, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's definitely what I don't use his name because
Right.
I'm like Whoopi Goldberg. I just don't want to give him any kind of recognition. But yes, very definitely, as far as I'm concerned, he's a fool.
Can you share with the audience our relationship in the prisons with the thousands of inmates that we interacted with? I taught hepatitis, HIV, empowerment, motivation. I provided resources to them to reconnect back into society. You spoke on not only spirituality, but you spoke on some other elements, because most of those young adults went to church as a child, but somehow they got drawn away from the church to the streets. And you had a big positive element to these individuals that went to our classes. Can you share with the audience our
Yes.
relationship?
Well, our relationship was one of trying to bring these men and women back to their roots, back to their spiritual roots. And we tried very hard to bring that about through letting them know that there are any number of people out here who are willing to be helpful if they will just accept their help. One of the groups that I got involved in, which you would recall, was One Church, One Inmate.
Yes.
And we were trying very hard to get churches to find parishioners, members, who would be willing to embrace an individual who was incarcerated when they get out of incarceration, and help them to find a job, or help them to go back to school, help them to strike up a relationship with their families, or whatever that person would need. But it's just important to let them know that they're not abandoned, that they are people who need love, need attention. They need to have those of us who really believe in what Jesus said, they really need to have us step up and become very visible to them. And so I did go there with you, and I am so glad that we did, because I still have a lot of those men who correspond with me and who have let me know that it wasn't in vain what we tried to do.
What made you adopt the Georgia Doty? Of all the organizations that want you involved, all the organizations that come at you consistently over the years, what made you sensitive, or what made you compassionate to be our chairman and to work with us the way that you have?
Well, you can find my reasoning behind one word that you use so often, and that's comprehensive.
Okay.
And that's the reason. Because you did not stop at one particular phase or just one group or anything. You were comprehensive. Georgia Doty has always been out there on the forefront. And I was so delighted that you had personages like Mayor Harold Washington, who were directly involved with the Georgia Doty Comprehensive program. And they too saw that you didn't have any walls, you didn't have any strictures. You were out there working with the folks.
Yes.
And that impressed me
So
very,
I guess
very.
you agree that education is the key, not only to success, but to one's health.
Oh, yes. In fact, scientists maintain, there have been a group of scientists.
A caller? I think we have a caller here.
Yes, hello?
Caller, you call in?
Yes, I had a question in regards to
I can't hear you.
spirituality and can you hear me?
No.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I had a question in regards to spirituality and vaccination, and how do you feel about that in regards to people getting exemption forms for spirituality reasons and vaccination, and are you familiar just with the process?
I didn't hear that word.
I couldn't hear exactly myself.
What was that word you used?
Vaccinations in
Vaccination.
relationship. Yes.
And what
as
about
far as-
spirituality and vaccination?
For school, for like children and people for religious reasons, getting vaccination exemption forms for spirituality reasons. Are you familiar with that, or how do you feel in regards to getting not getting vaccinations based off spirituality reasons?
Well, I presume you're talking about vaccination for children.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. I feel very strongly that it's the duty, responsibility of the parent about vaccination. And if the parent does not want their child to be vaccinated, they have that right. And it's just that simple to me, that we have to leave it up to the parents.
Did that answer your question, caller?
Yes. And are you familiar with the process in regards to getting the vaccination forms?
Yes, you have to go to the Board of Health here in Chicago.
Okay.
Well, thank you for calling, sir. I'd like to also share with the public that it's best to honor and recognize somebody while you're alive. We, on July 28th, will be honoring Father George Clements. And we're going to honor him at the South Shore Country Club. I hope everybody can see this. I got it on there right. And if you have any questions about the event, please call 312-282-1375. The website that has all the information on the event in honoring a great man for many years of accomplishments, sacrifice, devotion, dedication, and faithfulness. We'd like for you to come out and share with him your love to this man. He's changed the lives of thousands and thousands of people within the Chicago area. Go to www.georgiadoty, D-O-T-Y, Inc.org. It's www.georgiadotyinc.org, and get your tickets. And then please come out and attend and share your love with such a great, great man. And anything final words, Father?
Yeah, well, I'm just so humbled, and I really am just so grateful to be recognized. But I want you to know that God does not want any of us to go around bragging about any of our accomplishments, because one thing's for sure, we have all kinds of deficiencies. But I'm very, very grateful to anyone who does feel that anything I've done has been worthy of attention. And I thank Georgia Doty for giving me that recognition. And I'm just so proud to be associated with all of you. And thank you very, very much. God bless all of you.
I want to thank you. I look forward to the event, and look forward to everybody showing their support by attending our organization, by looking for new volunteers. We're stretching out to Atlanta, LA, and Vegas. So we look for this expansion program and your support. I want to thank you and hope to see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.